Alright, and welcome. We are going to talk about today how to correctly do the print statement in Python and some of the tricks that happen with the print statement. In order to do this, you have to have a proper installation of Python installed. So if you have not yet done that, click the link in the description to take you to the video on how to correctly install Python for your machine. Otherwise, let's get this going. For this, you're going to need to open up idle, so go find your Python folder, whether that's in your Windows key or in your applications folder for a Mac. Open up idle, IDLE. And what you're going to start with, and when you open this up, is the shell. The shell is in interactive mode. This is a place where you can do some quick scripts just to figure some things out. Like I could write a print statement here, like hello world. And as soon as I hit return or enter, it's going to do the script that I wrote. Okay, whatever I end up writing, okay, it will run immediately as soon as it hits a full coded segment. So if I said something like for I in range of 5, and I said, whoops, 5, and I said something like print hello, it's going to print that 5 times as soon as I have it. But most of your scripting is not going to be done in interactive mode. To get into script mode, you're going to have to go from the shell and hit File, New File. Okay? And that is going to bring up a blank pad for you so that you can do some coding. Now today, what we are going to talk about again is the print statement. And specifically, we're going to talk about these few things here. Okay? Print statements, escape sequences, end arguments, the end argument, triple quoted strings, and formatted strings. Now at the very top of this, you're going to notice that I started everything with hashtags. That simply just means that it is a programming comment and it will not be part of the executed part of the program. So let's get into this. Right now, let's talk about the print statement. Okay, the print statement is relatively simple. You say the word print. It has to be spelled appropriately, lowercase p on that. And what you can put in here is basically any literal string that you want. So I can type something like hello world. Okay. And once I have that, I can save this document. So I can hit File, Save As. Put it in whichever directory you want to save your work. For me, I want to save it, let's say we'll save it in the CIS1400.net, and we're going to say print file. Okay. And once it's saved, you can always run it. Now, one of the commands up here is run module. Go ahead and click that, and it will run it for you, and you'll see it over here in the shell in the interactive mode where it will print hello world for you. I'm going to add a little bit more to this. Okay, let's say we do something like this, print hello again. Notice the only difference between this print statement and the previous one is the different type of quotation marks. Python does not differentiate greatly against the quotation marks you, whether you use single quotes or double quotes. Both will work just fine. Now, if you want to run this module again, a nice shortcut for that is to hit F5 on your keyboard in idle. It will allow you to save it and execute all in one step, and you'll notice that it prints both of those together. Now, knowing that you can use any kind of quotation mark to begin or end a literal string, the green part, the part that's encapsulated within the quotation marks, it allows you to print quotation marks within your string. So I could do something like this and say, it's amazing. And notice that I begin and end the string with double quotes, but I do insert this single quote inside the middle of the literal string, and that is absolutely okay to do. It will print out the single quote. It will run into issues as if I tried to insert single quotes while using a single quote in the string. Notice that this shows up black, meaning it's not really encapsulated within the quotation marks anymore. And if I did try to run this, it's going to throw an error message at me. Invalid syntax, and it's not going to be able to do it. Notice it highlights the character after in which the syntax is technically incorrect. It's incorrect here because this is the first place the interpreter ran into a problem. So anytime you want to print quotes within quotes, make sure that you encapsulate, so surround the literal string with quotation marks that are different from what you want to use within it. There are other ways to get quotation marks to print in there with escape sequences, so let's talk about that next. Okay, escape sequences are special characters that you can put within literal strings that will basically do something for you. And there are several escape sequences listed. I would invite you to check out some documentation there that I may have linked in other places for you. So let's first start with something like this. We'll say print hello there, and then I'm going to put a /n and say again. Close the quotes, close the parentheses, and if I go ahead and run this, what you're going to notice is that the /n actually says hello there, and then the again ends up on a separate line. This particular character, the /n character, puts in a new line feed into the middle of your string. So if I were to actually throw in a few of those, right, and run this, you're going to notice that there's a large gap between the hello there and again. There's actually 1, 2, 3 new line feeds. We get one from here to here, there's one, then from here to here there's 2, and then from here to here there's 3 new line feeds. And so we see that our text ends up on a separate line. It's pretty effective when you want to write out a ton of blank space between certain things. So you can type something like this, and inside there you could put /n/n/n, and what that will give you is basically 3 blank lines in your text before you go ahead and print something else out, okay? Like print down here. Run it, see what happens, and you're going to notice it says hello there again, and then way down here it ends up printing more text, okay? Another escape sequence that you can print is a tab /t, and you'll notice that when I print that particular escape sequence, you're going to notice that a much larger gap appears within the output. And then this is a tab. Notice that there's quite the space there. It's a horizontal tab. It inserts 5 spaces. Go ahead and use that to help you format things like rows and columns within the output of a table. And the last escape sequence I kind of want to go through with you is the idea of able to print in quotation marks within quotation marks that you've already elaborated on. So print, let's say we said quotes for quotes. Notice that my string did not end when I put these quotation marks in there as it did before, because I'm beginning it with this /. It technically marks it as an escape sequence, and now I'm allowed to write quotation marks within quotation marks that are of the same style and kind, and that would work also again for single quotation marks as well. There are other escape sequences that you can work with, like a double / to print, or a double / to print a single /, and things of that nature. I invite you to read some documentation on some of those other escape sequences, but they always start with that / character and then follow up with another character. Alright, the next thing we want to talk about are these end arguments. Okay, these are relatively simple. Okay, I'm actually going to go ahead and comment out many of this just so that we don't see it anymore. So I'm going to hit Format, comment out region. So it's a nice easy thing that we can do just to clean things up in our program. So comment out the region. Alright, that doesn't take the programming code out of there, but it makes it so that it won't get interpreted anymore. Now my end argument is actually pretty easy to work with. I could say something like this, print, and let's go with hello, and then I'm going to close the quotes and put a comma, and I'm going to write end equals a space, and then print on the same line. Now this may look a little confusing, and you may think that, okay, I'm going to print hello and I'm going to print this text on separate lines, but this end argument actually allows us to keep the cursor on the exact same plane or same line as what it was before. And you notice that I actually get 2 spaces in here, because what this end argument does is it tells the cursor what to do when the print statement is over. Normally, the end argument does have something in it. It has that /n in there as an escape sequence, which means it puts the cursor down a line, but I can change it to anything I want. Let's say I want it to be just a single space and leave the cursor on that line. That's essentially what I have here. And so when I run it, it says hello on the same line. If I were to fill it in with characters, let's say just a bunch of dashes, it's going to end that string with the bunch of dashes, whatever may be there, and you can see that it ends and then picks back up the very next print statement for us. So the end argument can be quite helpful, again, especially if you're doing certain things that need to be on the same line of text. Okay. All right, now the next thing, which is kind of fun and unique, are triple quoted strings. Okay, triple quoted strings are strings that allow you to format what you print very, very easily. So let's say you're making some sort of console application or game, and you want there to be a menu at the very beginning, but you want it to be kind of centered in the console and have a very specific format. What a triple quoted string will allow you to write your text in the format that you want, and it will display in the same format. So notice I started my print statement with 3 quotation marks, and then I hit return just to keep things easy and neat for myself. And I wrote out some stuff, and I hit enter, and then a bunch of spaces, hit enter, wrote out some more stuff with some spaces, and notice that all the spacing is here. Now this wouldn't work with a normal print statement, everything would get left aligned, but with triple quoted strings, you're going to notice that it actually prints in the same exact format that I wrote it in, which is kind of neat, and makes it a little bit easier to write things like ASCII art or something like that, or specifically a menu for a game or a program that you want to work with. So feel free to use that. Again, it doesn't matter what type of quotes you use here. Single quotes or double quotes will do the exact same. Just as long as you start with 3 quotes and end with 3 quotes, you will have everything that is written here formatted in your output the exact same way that you wrote it in your literal string. All right, the last thing we want to discuss here is the formatted string. Okay. Now this isn't actually part of the print statement, but something we can do in the print statement, something we will use quite often throughout the class. And we can write a print statement that will allow us to place more information in there as we see fit. So for instance, let's say I said name, or I say first name equals, let's say it's Brandon, and we say last name equals Berskevich, right? I could print out a statement that greets the person with whatever first name and last name is associated with it. Those are variables. We'll talk more about that later. But right now I have values associated with those variables, and I could type something like this. Hello. Actually, let me give myself a little bit more room here. Hello, and what I'm going to do is put some curly braces in here as placeholders for the items that I would like to substitute in. And I could say, it's nice to meet you. End the quotes, and what I would do is write .format, because this is actually a function or method I can apply to a string, a literal string, and then the arguments for this method can be anything that you would like to replace these brackets with. So for me, I want to replace it with first name and last name. I need to end the parenthesis for the method and end the parenthesis for the print statement. And if I were to save and run this, what you're going to notice is that it says, hello, Brandon Berskevich, not these curly braces. It's nice to meet you, because it's substituted first name in for this very first curly brace and last name in for the second curly brace. It will always substitute things in the order in which it finds it. So first curly brace to the first argument of the format method, second to the second, third to the third, fourth to the fourth, and however many you want. You can have as many arguments in there as you need. Now the nice thing is we can actually swap this out for some input. And that way this program can actually be a little bit more dynamic, and we'll get into that very, very shortly. But now it says enter your first name. Maybe I enter Steve. And now it says, hello, Steve Berskevich, it's nice to meet you. So you can see how now my program can be a little bit more dynamic and user-friendly and still give me the appropriate output that I'm looking for. So that's a quick tutorial on the print statement. The big idea here is that you know how to use the print statement to print a literal string, how to use your quotation marks to your advantage. Escape sequences, the two escape sequences we will use the most are the /n's and the /t's. Using this end argument to kind of reposition your cursor as you see fit and end your string with what you need. The triple quoted string is just plain old fun to use. And the format method on a string allows you to plug information into that literal string as you see fit and necessary for your program output. So I hope this helps with the print statement. Again, you'll get some practice with this. So use this as reference and feel free to look up any documentation you need.